It's time for change to move into the real work of the universe. And it's time to understand that we use the matter state to reach the level of understanding of the soul of the man. Now you understand maybe why the Creator has sent his messengers in the name of whatever you have had. Is that they bring the ears, that it can be used when the time of the Messiah comes. They can teach the soul and the message, not to oppose. But by them understanding through those who have become Messiahs, to give from their souls to these to elevate, the job is made easy. The school is there and the students are devotedly there. Then there won't be any fight between what they call the Muslims and the Christians. The lamb and the lion will eat and sleep in the same nest. The Christians and the Muslims will sleep and pray in the mosque, then in the same church, in the name of their souls, not in the name of religion that is used to create so much conflict for the benefit of those who were the hyperactive children. The time has come, the time of change is here. And as I said, my wish is my command. If it's your wish to see peace, the path of peace is laid very clearly. It's the soul of the collective awareness. By giving will create that position of change. No other thing. There is no pen in the soul of the man. And I'm sure once you go into the universal community, you will never see anything written but the balance of the fields of the soul of the existence. Try to be humble enough not to become arrogant in the power that you have understood and you possess. Otherwise, you'll fall in the same path of the church and the mosque. This is what we promised, and this is what we have delivered. We have to understand the operation of the soul, and we have to understand the soul of the man is a star in the cosmos of the universe. If we compare the soul of the man and many of us, 7 billion in one collection, Earth is like a galaxy with so many stars. When we look in the depth of the universe, we see galaxies with hundreds of millions of stars in it. So is the planet Earth. Carries 7 billion beautiful stars, which are the soul of the man. Carries with it soul of so many trillions of animals, plants, and everything else. So if you look, when someone who does not see the physicality of the earth and its content, what do they see? They see a galaxy with so many beautiful lights shining, each one according to their strength, each one according to their position. An infant has a beautiful soul, so has the old man. To those who do not see the physical dimension of this planet, but they see the strength of the field, we are clusters of stars. The human race, every single soul, no one from a distance sees that's the soul of a fisherman, that's the soul of the cosmologist, that's the soul of the president. They all shine irrespective of the physicality. This is the magic. This is what the new science has to bring to man. When we look through our soul, we see nothing but we star in the other souls. And this is the break. This is the understanding. This is what all these teachings are about. Coming to mature to the next level, to understand in the deep space, the universe is the oyster for those souls who serve. Then man is ready to go into space. Then man is ready to become part of the universal community which has been promised. I never promised you heaven. I always promised you the elevation of the man to join the family. And now you have the key. It's you who has to open the door to understand, if I can raise the soul of these people or millions of other souls, that the physical life on this planet changes, then I'm worthy to be part of the universal community. To be there to serve, to expand. To be there, to be part, that in the cycle of life of universe, I become, in being part, I become part of the totality. When man reaches that point, a new dimension in the strength of the soul of the man will appear, which is beyond imagination of understanding of the physical life. It's the gate to the opening of the new life, in a new dimension, which is beyond imagination of what you might call a new beginning, a new cycle. Which that cycle carries with itself the origin of the creation of life in the universe and in the universe. It's the elevation of the soul to serve become the key, not a throne of the physical life. The time is right. The time has come for the man to go through this process.
Welcome everyone to the 82nd One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. It is Tuesday, June 25th, 2019. This is a broadcast from the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute and part of the Public Education in English. My name is Rick Crammond. I'll be your host today along with Flint Mulhausen. And of course, we are joined with Carolina Keshe of the Keshe Foundation. And I believe she's ready to go with today's workshop. Hello, Carolina.
Hello, Rick. Good morning for you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the knowledge seekers. I know they're going to start dripping in very slowly. So we always have a slow start. But once we're up and running, nobody can hold us back on the path of discovery, what we can change, where we can change, what is our desire, what is our love to do. But above all is the pleasure of what do we want to do. I know a lot of people have a different spirit at this given moment because it's springtime. We have had the longest day of light. And we are already start declining again. And we just reached that beautiful more daylight and more hours of being able to be outdoors when the weather is okay. So, Rick, or any of the knowledge seekers, do you want to start a topic today? And with what topic would you like to start? Anything you want to discuss or to bring on the table?
Yes, I was told that Diane Pearl Smith has something to say. You can unmute there, Diane. You can talk about your topic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I made a wish and I think it needs to be revised. I'm not sure in like the proper language. Like I don't know if I said the words right. I put it on the share and Flint, I think it was you said, asked me. I didn't have a speaker then. So I don't know how to change it. Or
What,
if I-
month was it?
I think it was February, but I'm just guessing because it was a little while ago, but it was this year. I don't remember the like.
Oh, okay, I'll look for it here.
Sorry. I don't think it was January because I don't think it was like at the beginning of the year. So it could be March too, but I don't think it was. I should have looked it up. Sorry. There it is. I wish for ways of being enduring in harmony with nature and universal laws of energy. Manawa. Manawa is Hawaiian for like your powers now.
Sorry, what was Manawa again, Diane?
Is how Hawaiian for your moment of power is now, like in the present.
Your moment of power is now, and it's Hawaiian. Okay. So they say it as just one word, like Manawa.
Yeah, from what I
That-
understand.
That means your moment of power is now. Of course, that's a lot better than saying the full sentence. By the time you say it, it's over.
I'm not sure about the writing. Is that like the right writing? I wish for a way.
Okay. Do we want to bring this through to today's? Do we want to put this into today's Flint, or should we keep it back in February?
Well, if we're going to revise it, we can copy it and bring it into June here.
Yeah, I think that'd be best.
Okay, I'm assuming it's. Sorry, I'm assuming it's the first part of what I said. I don't know if it's in the right present now moment, or I guess Manawa would do it.
Well, we can definitely work with that, and I'm sure there'll be some suggestions here. Let's just get it situated first. Flint, are you working on the live document? And I guess you are. Yeah. And you
can go ahead if you want to.
You want me to do it then, or
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I'll find that. There it is. Okay, let me share that. And let's see. Okay, I think you should be able to see that.
Yeah, it comes in good.
Okay, so we have Diane with I wish for ways of being and doing in harmony with nature and universal laws of energy. Manawa.
So is that like the language I would use?
Well, let me read it again. I wish for ways of being and doing in harmony with nature and universal laws of energy.
Like our mom and dad.
We know, I think everyone knows quite well what you're saying. Maybe there's a more elegant way of putting it, or more, even more correct way, you might say. Carolina, you're usually weighing in on this. Do you have any input on that?
Can you read it for me, please?
It is from Diane. It says, I wish for ways of being and doing in harmony with nature and universal laws of energy.
Can we change this in that it's already done?
Yeah, please.
And I think it should start with we work as the confirmation.
How about
we work in harmony with nature and the universal laws of energy. And then you can choose what you put in front of this wish, because I think this is the way it's confirmed. We are working in harmony with nature and the universal laws of energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. You turn or convert everything, it's already done.
Yeah, it just shortened the sentence and made it more direct and right in the moment, just like the Manawa was meant to be. What do you think, Diane? Does that work for you?
That works for me. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just put in okay, very good. That seems like a good way to start. We work in harmony with nature and the universal laws of energy. Manawa.
Maybe the lady can explain what that means, and then you can put it next to the word underneath, because a lot of people will not understand what this is about.
Well, a few years ago, I thought of like those to saying and explain what I'm working on and what I'm trying to do with my life, and that came, I don't know, a few years ago. And of course, and McGrath and Keshe. Well, that's it.
What was the definition you said before? It was Hawaiian for?
Now is the time of your power. Now I can't remember how I put it. Now is the moment of power.
Now is the moment of power. Okay.
That's power. So it's done.
Nice, thank you. Anybody else wants to bring up a wish? Or wants to start a topic or has questions about anything in particular? It doesn't matter what questions you have, you can come. Yes, Rick.
Well, the big elephant in the room right now is the conflict between the US and Iran that seems to be escalating at this point, even though they talk about peace, but they're also making preparations for even more sanctions and even more cutting off of relations of each other. The U.S. has just declared the Iranian president as on the same list of terrorists and so on, and they just called the U.S. decisions idiotic and retarded, and because they're putting sanctions on at the same time, saying, "Oh, we'd like to have a talk and talk peace and so on," but they've closed virtually all the doors to peace by the actions that have taken place. And so we see both sides sort of retreating back into their corners more and more. And I don't know. We need to, I think, put some attention on that and work toward bringing people together for mutual talks and getting an understanding. So, is there anybody else that has any input on that? How they see the situation, and how can we give in the way that we do in this group in order to perhaps alleviate some of that pressure or enable the best outcomes to occur. Or do we have to do anything?
If we go out from the point of understanding that we are the creators, what do we want to see created? I think that's how the wish should be able to start.
Mm-hmm.
What do we want from our point of view as knowledge seekers, with what we have gathered on knowledge and knowing that we are the creators? What do we want to add to this wish to create that field strength for it, then it to go? There was somebody who wanted to say something.
Yes, this is Moshfaq speaking. Maybe we can start with the wish that we had in the Universal Council meeting, which I posted in our private chat, but it might work as a starting point. And there is, as we all know, in this kind of political development, we have quite a bit of posturing, and various camps need to get appeased but in various ways. So that goes on, and this is normal politics, but we are not quite interested in that. So our wish was something, it goes something like that. No matter what happens in the Middle East, the peace is breaking out. This is the council, the wish of the Universal Council. And it's a very simple wish, but it embodies everything. It doesn't matter what happens. There can be any number of things that various camps are doing, but in some ways, sometimes they're exposing certain things or certain tendencies, but in the end, it's all for peace. And that's really the wish. We can extend it further, but basically this is how things would go, peace. The bottom line is peace, nothing else. So anyway, we can start from there and go where we want to go from there. Thank you.
Okay, how was it written again, Mashfaq? Something like, no matter what we see happening in the Middle East.
What happens in the Middle East, the peace is breaking out. Something along that line. I don't exactly remember. I can. Okay, let me see whether I can find the original. Okay. You can go to the, what do you call it?
I have it here. I'll give it to Rick.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so it goes, no matter what is happening in the Middle East, it is all for peace, for it is the wish of the Universal Council.
I think that it's not what is about to happen in the Middle East. It's what is going to bounce back to the West. That will be 100 times worse than what is happening in the East. So we always, Mr. Keshe said, you always have to balance the fields for all equal. So it doesn't matter which name we put on the table, because that is of no importance. It doesn't matter if it happens in the East or in the West. It's globally, we are all going to get really affected if the steam comes out of the pot, as we say. Because we are all interconnected, even if you don't even look at the soul level or the physicality, but even if you just go to the basics in the matter state, we are all trading with one another. There's always been an exchange. If it was not in culture, it was in language, it was in wisdom, it was in knowledge, it was in loving, it was in caring, it was in doing business, making money. We're all depending, and we saw this coming when they tried to stop the agreement with Iran. Then they start opening up all the doors, and even towards public, because public had no knowledge about this, how intertwined the parts which are going, which are needed for finishing certain items in the United States have traveled to China, to Taiwan, to God knows where before they come back to be assembled to go out as a complete product. And then vice versa. United States is delivering things which the West or the East could not use because the framework came from United States. So we are already intertwined. I think the wish should come to elevate the totality of humanity, that we all can work and support in the direction of the peace, that we all give that, what Mr. Keshe usually says, that kribble krabble, that the souls feel that this is the wave which is coming, so that they all can start participating by redirecting their physicality to go towards looking where they can add to the peace. What do you think?
Well, I guess we get into that that thing about whether we should be isolating a specific place or any specific peoples or any specific anything in our wishes, because as soon as we specify something, it sort of in a way negates the other percentage that is not spoken of. But on the other hand, when we see things going on, it's nice to have a reminder that it's all for peace. So if our attention's on the Middle East right now and what is happening in the Middle East, then this kind of specifies, sort of like, if you're thinking about the Middle East, don't worry about it, it's all for peace, and go on to something else. Basically, it's no matter what you see, it's basically just part of the illusion, and carry on, because the basic peace is the core underlying theme. So you're saying we should be putting in sort of, no matter what is happening on planet Earth, it is all for peace? Is that what you're indicating, Carolina?
Yes. You remember, I saw Eva tried to bring it as a nice way, the way Mr. Keshe came in. He bought it in, I don't know, I can't remember where, but she took that framework out where Mr. Keshe says, I want you to go with my wish. My wish is equality for everyone. You cannot go and support that or there unless it is for specific, that they need specific, like we did for Togo. That is specific, sending a huge support for that purpose to serve. We cannot do this in this way. There are too many parties involved: China, Russia, Iran, Egypt, all the neighboring countries, United States, Europe, they're all involved. We cannot even separate one or the other, or to make even specific wishes. It's what Mr. Keshe was warning us for. He said, they still will try. It's not going to be easy. And we will see these kind of little upheavals here and there, because they will try. But the overall is that we have to stand for our purpose to serve as a knowledge seeker. If we're going to create a wish, it's world peace. Doesn't matter from which part, where, because the majority of the population on this planet wants to live in peace. They want to have the stability. They're craving for this interacting, but in a peaceful way. So when you create a wish in that manner, you target the souls which are already craving for that. And you ignore the games that are getting played, which are misleading you from what you actually should achieve.
Right, I agree entirely. Now, the thing that I would, there's something else here though that we could look at in this sentence. Like we could change it that no matter what is happening on planet Earth, it is all for peace. Or what I would propose is a different slant on the perspective here. And instead of saying no matter what is happening, to put in, no matter what we see is happening in the Middle East, it is all for peace. Because it's our vision that's defective, not the things that are happening. In other words, it's
That's
us that has to be able to see the peace directly. No matter what we see is happening, we have to be able to see that underlying peace. And
no,
that produces the peace in ourselves. Otherwise, if we see conflict, then that is a reflection of our inner state, that we are somehow part of that conflict. We are identifying with it somehow. We have to
but
remove ourselves from that identification and be able to see the peace and project the peace, be the actual creators of the peace. And that can only happen if you're not identified with it. If you're taking sides either way, if you're identifying with the Middle East or with US or Canada or whatever place you happen to be in, then you're not able to be objective about it. You cannot give from your soul if you're stuck thinking about a certain perspective, or like you're saying, just focused on one part of something.
yes, but the way you phrased it at the first moment, no matter what we see, you cannot you can only establish peace. You cannot just assume in confirming what you see that is what you see. You can't even place it into the cohesion of that there is even, because everybody can put something else in that mind of what they think they see. So that assumption should never take place in a wish. A wish should be very direct, very clean, to the purpose to serve. And it's already done. Because then the fields will be able to divert and direct into what we are creating. Because we are accumulating. You see, what I was trying to say is there are many, many people, don't even mention the knowledge seekers, yeah? Beside the knowledge seekers, beside the Keshe Foundation, we have a world population. When you go to the nitty-gritty of the reality of the amount of people, they are all trying or desiring or wishing or creating that they can live in peace. So when you as a group come with that kind of wish in what you create, you are actually becoming the magnet of all these souls which are living in peace, which are devoting their life to peace, and there are a huge amount on this planet. You are accumulating because you become that center point of the magnet, because you attract their field strength. They come and add to your field strength. So I think that the wish, if you do this calculation of accumulating what is already in the air hanging, but it has never been managed to come together because there was never a center point of understanding that we all want to be in peace. There might be smaller parts, like I want peace for my village, I want peace for my country, I want peace for my neighboring countries. But those facts actually don't matter. It is the direction of the wish of the peace, which you are accumulating the field strengths, which you are about to add to your field strength, which then will cover the whole planet. Because we are working in one totality. The world peace means for every single being, every single soul on this planet to unite in peace. And we are accumulating the fields to come together. Not for one or not for the other, or not for this one, or not for a race, or not for, we are not excluding nobody. But whoever is wishing and is working already in the direction of the peace, we automatically are receiving their field strength. So we can never confirm there is something wrong somewhere, because then you are establishing it again, or you're keeping it in place. We can become that really huge, beautiful magnet, and we are just attracting all the ones which are going in the same direction to work for peace, to be peaceful. And we are collecting their fields. So you can imagine how we are going to magnify this wish and balancing the fields. You understand my direction of thinking and working, Rick?
Yes, indeed, but I still maintain that all phenomena that's happening is illusion, and that it's our internal process that's important, not the external processes. However, I would like to put in what you're saying. No matter what is happening on planet Earth, does that work?
I would not put even no matter what happens. I would put, we collect all, we are working with all the peaceful intentions of every single soul on this planet to establish world peace. We can be the magnet. We are collecting that fields. Like, you remember when I asked you to put the magnet on the table and put your finger on it? If you move, all the other magnets are moving. So you can request, you can ask for support from the source. And this is exactly what we are doing. It's time to collect the fields for that purpose to service, which is world peace, which will serve each one involved in this process to become to that peaceful solution. We are becoming the magnet to attract all these little magnets to come to a majority of positive world peace. We do care what is happening. Doesn't matter what it shows or what it doesn't show or where it goes, or we are not even taking anything in consideration with that. We work purely with the souls which are already there giving. So we become, as the Keshe Foundation, we just need to find the right way. Mr. Keshe says, my word is my command. So if every soul which is in that peaceful matter state or physical state or soul state of working, that they want peace, their wish is their command. But we can bring all these little commands together and make one big, my wish is my command. I'm working through the field strength of the souls. Because that works much faster than all the diversion and whatever we are trying to see to avoid or to put notice down. It will waste time. How can we create a wish that we become that magnet to receive, to establish world peace? How can we put this in words that we have heard their wishes and we are now putting them together? Anybody, any ideas?
We have Dean with his hand up here. If you want to go ahead there, Dean.
Carolina, I've just written something in the chat, and I believe it's just, we, humanity, are glowing in peace.
give me a chance to. You know, the way you've written it down, you're not confirming it.
How so?
Because the souls, the majority of the souls, yeah, they live peaceful. We are only dealing with a few hyperactive children, only a few. So we have to work with the majority. The majority lives in peace. It's only when those few hyperactive children start creating the commotion, then they start aggravating one against the other. But in reality, when they sit still, they have been peaceful for years and centuries. They didn't have problems. The incitement of the disturbance is to make money or to gain something from it. The way you write it, the souls are already peaceful. It's just to collect the field strength to become one, to become that majority, to work as one.
So how do we do that?
Exactly.
Do they actually know that we love them? They're fellow souls. They're us. We are them. We're one. We love them.
Yes. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a few hyperactive ones, huh?
Yeah, but even those we love.
Of course we do. We don't say we don't. They have the hardest path to cross. It's not easy for them either. Nobody says it's an easy path. Remember what Mr. Keshe explained when you stand on a bus in one of his teachings. He says, if your child is 4 seats away and there are a few strangers in between the mother and the child, or the father and the child, you think that he's not connected with the child, that there is a cutoff because there are a few people in between. The soul has no boundaries. You're always in touch. So we're always in touch with all of them. It's just, do we wish that global peace to be established? We can only work as a magnet to collect the field strength to make that, as what I always say, you work with the majority, you always have a winning hand. I never seen somebody losing with a few in the hand. In any game you have, the more you have, the more you win, the more you gain. So it's about how to put it down. How can we collect all these beauties with all their wishes of peace? Because it is existing in them. They're talking, they're living it. Some of them are spreading it. Some of them are writing books about it. Some of them are going on whatever journeys for peace. But you got to become the magnet to attract their field strength to become, then that to convert it into that wish. And it can go very simple.
Caroline?
Yes.
This is Mark. In the chat, I wrote, I wish the mother of all peace that arises in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is.
Why do you refer to the mother? They're man, boys, young adults, girls?
Because the mother birthed us all.
World peace doesn't carry a gender. It carries the field strength. I'm working through the field strength, darling. I'm not working through mother or father. I'm working on soul level, which doesn't have a gender.
Okay, take the word mother out and use the rest.
And instead of that arises, is, how do you use that in conversion? You have to change the sentence. Let me see.
So as it is right now, it goes, I wish the peace that arises in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is.
I'm thinking, because it's going to have to be put in a different direction. If you're talking about our unicos, if you put I wish on the top and start with the sentence, please, Rick.
Put I wish, it means separate I wish.
Yeah.
And just,
yeah.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
So it would be more like the peace that arises in all souls of our unicos is enjoyed as it is, or something like that.
Just 1 second.
Or may the peace that arises in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is.
No, because maybe you put a question mark on it.
No, it's may the peace. It means as a creator, you proclaim it.
All souls are arising.
How about that have arisen
all souls have arisen
so it makes it present sense.
I think arising is a wrong word. I think it should be
That's why I was saying arisen, because it makes it more present. It is.
Arising is the wrong word, because arising is something that's still
Right. That's why we're changing it to arisen, which is more present tense. It's actually happening now. Versus will arise or may arise or.
And I would start all souls. Wait.
May the peace that has arisen in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is. May the peace that has arisen in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is. Let the peace that has risen in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is.
That is not a good ending as it is. We got to unite them.
It is as it is.
We are no.
Yes.
I'm
Can't deny what is. You can't deny what is. Are you trying to change something, Carolina?
I'm trying to unify
the souls. The souls are already united. The souls are one.
No, the direction or in what they're working.
So you're trying to change direction of other souls?
No. No, I'm not.
It gets into a bit of a sticky situation here.
So
I'm teasing a bit.
what's being enjoyed is as it is. You know, it is as it is.
Ruby,
It is. Not because it will be or has been, but because it is. Just saying. So it is already happening, or has begun, or will continue as
But
it.
when you put in that has arisen, it kind of indicates the process is already done.
Correct.
But I think it's an ongoing process. I like the word rising. I let the peace rising in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is. I think that would be more immediate, and you know, you see a soul rising in the world and you enjoy that. That's happening like right now. You see it now, you enjoy it
Right.
now, and so on.
That is rising, but if you say is, then it hasn't happened yet. So is that what we're trying to?
No, just let the peace rising. Rising, it seems to me like it would be, it's happening all around me right now. It's rising now. There's souls rising, you know.
Right.
That's what's happening in the world. You could say, let the peace in waking souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is, or something like that, perhaps.
I think you have to remove let before the first word. The peace.
Continue, perhaps? Let the peace continue?
No. If you remove the first word and just put the peace.
What about flourishing?
Yeah, flower, flourish, all these great words that just tell us that it's happening already and that it's in place, and it is as it is.
Right, that's the basic idea here, I think, yes. So how do we, what's the correct word that for us today, I guess? We could put many in, like you're saying. How do we come to some decision on that? Well, through the process that we're doing, working through it, but.
And I think arisen is with an E, S-E-N.
Yeah, that looks better.
It's missing that in behind the peace should be may the peace, or can the peace continue, or somehow it doesn't make sense. The peace that has arisen in all souls of our universe be enjoyed. It's not a proper sentence.
Mm-hmm.
May the peace last that has arisen in all souls.
No.
And be enjoyed as it is.
You cannot.
May the peace
Or you
last.
can put it,
Hold on a second, hang on. May the peace last that has arisen in all souls of our universe be enjoyed as it is.
like let it be light. So
Yeah.
let it be peace.
Last. forever, for all time.
Come on, knowledge seekers. You're about 30 people here present. Any other suggestions? Because we don't need to change this sentence. We can start a new one underneath and then see where the balance of the wishes are coming from.
Right.
Come on, put
We
your
can come
input
back
down.
to it.
Thank you. Anybody? Any knowledge seeker or council member wants to come forward?
Let's get Mark's, sorry, I was talking there with my microphone off. So I was going to say, let's get Mark's original sentence down first and allow that to be, and then we can go on and modify a couple more after that, perhaps.
The way I wrote it originally was, I wish the mother of all peace, that arises in all souls of our unicos be enjoyed as it is. And that's in the
oh yeah, I got it.
chat.
Yeah.
It's in the chat. You can just copy paste it.
All right. And well, so you're good with that, Mark, the way it is then, or did you want to modify it or whatever?
If we want to come back, if someone else has some other wish that they want to continue to add wishes.
Yeah, well, we can work with yours and the one we just came up with here and so on, and then we can modify it. Yep. I just wanted to make sure you were happy with your original one there. That sparked off all these other ones. So, okay, so then we have the piece. Well, we can use that or modify it. Does anyone have something that would be appropriate right now? Did you have something, Jalal? Did you still want to put forth a complete sentence here?
I have a different idea.
Jalal, your voice has changed. Oh, Estella. Okay.
Nice voice, eh? It's nice voice.
What I'm thinking is relationships. You know, any relationship is about, it's like a playful interaction of feels when you have a positive connection and you work towards something and becomes an enjoyable, you know, experience. And what I see not only between countries or between companies or between families or between a man and a woman and a kid, they have the same issue. They don't know how to interact with the fields in a playful way where they enjoy the experience, what they're doing together. It's almost like creating music or creating a recipe of a new dish that, you know, there's going to be arguments, interactions, you put pepper, salt, or, you know, things that don't match, and they have to communicate in order to put together the dish. Okay. That's, I think, is the problem we're having, is we react or we have this rotten apple that is not in harmony with the other apples, and suddenly all the apples pick up the mold from the rotten apple. So that's the key of it's something there in the fields that stop us from creating positive interaction in the relationships of the experience. So it's It's basically wherever you put your focus, that's what you create, right? And it seems now we're putting the focus on the trouble. Oh, things are not going good in that area. It's going headwire. I want this experience of, from any kid to a country or governments that becomes an enjoyable interaction of the fields that goes towards a constructive outcome in a enjoyable, peaceful way, and they can completely be how you can not reactive or they see as an observer all those positions that can create the disturbance, but don't engage in the disturbance. I don't know how to explain that. Is you become wiser when you're able to do something with another person without fighting. If you know your conversation is going toward a fight or it's getting agitated, so you cool it down in a smart way and you keep interacting in a peaceful way. That's what I don't know how to put it in the sentence, but it becomes, a wise um, the participant. They need to be very wise and from at the soul level, but able to participate in a joyful, peaceful way and enjoy the ride. Do it, the connection, create the building, the how you call it when two people they get the bond because they participate in a project together. So it becomes a very positive thing. From this experience, they're brothers and sisters forever. Am I too crazy?
And only crazy in the way that John Lennon was, probably. I think he had a dream for peace in the world.
Yeah, that's exactly, you nail it too, because why not? Why cannot participate and have self-control and be able to allow other people so we can learn how to interact in peace? We don't know how to behave. That's why they put so many rules and regulations, because we haven't exercised this.
Well, that's the crux of the issue with humanity, basically.
It's about us and knowing to have that self-control and self-observation that your feels are invading or are being too harsh on someone else, when we can kind of interact in a playful way and you control your fingers so the magnet doesn't fly over the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, this is what we're seeing on the world stage as well. And with what I brought up originally with the conflict that we see with the US and Iran and so on, is, they both want their space, and they are sort of declaring that this is not okay to get into my space here, and literally airspace in some cases.
There is an interesting experience if you're trying to meditate and your whole family comes around you and they start talking, or the dog is barking, and you're there sitting in quietness trying to ignore everything, and you're thinking exactly like, you want your airspace and you want your peace there, but everybody also have the right to be in the patio, and it takes it's hard to stay in peace and center, meditating, not reacting to the environment.
Right, but if you can do it in that circumstance, and it is possible, then it makes you extra strong to be able to endure those circumstances that you were talking about earlier, to be able to take a situation that looks like it could end up in a conflict or end up badly, and turn it around by understanding, and you can divert
Well,
some of those energies into more constructive ways.
well,
Same
maybe
as in the sandbox.
we have the key people, the key players. That part of the wish is to bring that wisdom to, to this is the wish of the fields, that we wanna the connection, the interaction, the experience of signing the peace and collaboration together.
Very much
and
so.
and bring this elevation of understanding that the experience is hard to do it, but it's possible.
Stella,
Yes, yes. And let me get
Stella,
one.
Sorry, what?
Let me
I
get
think-
one point in, Dean, before we
Sorry,
go on here, just for a second here, which is that I think we're seeing that being played out in the world stage in a way. If you look at the president of Iran, for example, and the interactions with President Trump, and they're basically twittering back to each other and sort of doing this tit for tat thing. Okay, well, if you're going to do this, we're going to take out your drone, and okay, if you're going to take out our drone, we're going to do this, and okay, if you're going to do that, we're going to do this. And they have this tit for tat thing going on, but it's becoming like a chess game that the world can see, and they can see that there actually is some signs of compassion on each side. There's some signs of intelligence, of knowing not to just go and drop bombs as a way, as a solution, but to interact with the other side in this kind of a psychological game, you could say. But with Iran, they have a big advantage of actually many millennia of experience with this kind of thing. And they know about patience, and they know about compassion, and how to work with the enemy to get what they need out of the situation in different ways. And the US, on the other hand, is more impatient, more younger kind of culture that's quite entitled. They think they can do what they wish at this point, and so on. So there's different dynamics going on here. And each side is learning from the other side on how to behave in the world, what is okay and not okay to do. And they're starting to draw lines like it's not okay to be killing others on the other side, directly they've been doing it for years indirectly through all their proxy things, but this is starting to become a direct relationship now, president to president, essentially, or heads of state to heads of state, and heads of military to other heads of military. They're communicating publicly to each other. And of course, they do a lot of things in the background as well, and all we see is what they allow us to see as the public. But there's still this dynamic going on. And I know from my perspective, from a North American perspective, I think, wow, the Iranians were very, very clever in the way they, did this move or that move. And I think, wow, that US wouldn't have done things that way. They would have, been more klutzy in it, or more aggressive or something, or less aggressive, and it's very, very interesting to see this posturing or positioning going on. And it's all, like our thing says, it's all toward the peace. That's what I see. It's all for peace, no matter what we see happening, whether we see conflict or it looks like the very worst is about to happen. That doesn't matter, because essentially underneath it all is this huge movement toward peace. And even those souls at the very top, they feel that, and they're hesitant to go ahead with their plans for world domination or whatever plans they might have had before they got in that position of power that they're in now. And they're they're feeling this strong push from, you know, from the souls for peace. So we're very fortunate to live in this extremely interesting time. Okay, so I've said my piece here, so to speak, and let's get back to Dean. I think you had something you wanted to say there before I interrupted.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Estella said it all. If she'd have stopped at the rotten apples, I think that said it all. There's just a few rotten apples, and I don't know, how'd you get rid of rotten apples? I suggest we sort of give them some CO2 and bring out bring it back to life. Something like that, anyway. Something very simple.
It's interesting what you just said then, because this topic actually came up in private class. I believe the actual, as close to the topic as possible, would be that there are souls on this planet that we deem or are deeming as problematic, and possibly it's not acceptable just to let loose someone around in the universe. So they, some way or another, they need to be contained, and that's the principle that you just said, I believe. You know,
they just need some more love.
Well, this is it. But okay, so the debate came up that what if the love that you're offering, which bear in mind is unconditional, what if that's not enough? Yeah. What if the love that we offer is not enough to change them? It might contain it for a while, but what if X amount of existence down the line, it starts going a little bit funny again, and problems start arising? Because
then we need to teach them. We need to teach them new ways. We need to show them and teach them.
Well, yeah, you know, that's in many ways that's the approach, the avenue, direction that I came from. The actual containment, exactly what I said was, you know, what we're going to do about it. They need to be contained, and so my answer, whether it be ignorance to the knowledge or whatever you so choose, these selves need to be contained. Okay, so I just off the top of my head, you know, layman's term, in a plasmatic sense, some sort of containment field, i.e. a spaceship, is produced, which has a field strength that will contain those souls. But then we get into the problem of ethos and ethics, because we're not letting that soul ourselves technically free. We're containing it because there's a problem. So where do you draw the line? Thank you.
But a soul that's in conflict with itself should not dictate to all because it has a problem. It should learn to grow and love itself and become peaceful with itself, so that the rest of humanity can live in the peace that they deserve. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice. Maybe a problem that comes up in my head is that for us to actually put a finger on what we're describing them as, I use the term problematic, choose whatever you wish. There is an element of judgment in that, which is in fact a lack of understanding, which brings me a roundabout circle back to my last finishing sentence. Where do you draw the line? You know, talking about ethos and ethics at a universal level, not the small level that we've managed to stumble incredibly over since our existence. You know, it needs to be brought up to a level that is in line with universal existence. How do you encapsulate that? You've got to draw a line somewhere, or do you not have any parameters? And if you don't, you know, explain, because I don't understand that. Thanks.
I don't really have the words. I'm, you know, as you well know, I'm a man with very, very small amount of words. It always comes back to love for me. I just feel that these people, these entities, these souls, just need to take a good hard look at what they're doing. You know, go back to basics. Just become aware of yourself and what you're trying to achieve. What are you actually trying to achieve? Because it doesn't help anything or anybody on this planet, and it's just wrong, and it's time for it to stop. Humanity has had enough. It is now time for peace. Peace in this world. That's all I've got to say.
I think the most important thing, you know, the piece that we're looking for, we're pointing the finger, I'm pointing the finger and I'm judging, I'm saying, you know, this soul's possibly problematic. They're the souls that have created the situation that we're in, that we're elevating ourselves from. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I'll be back later. Thank you.
There's no pointing fingers. It's just time for peace. Please, grow up.
Just quickly, that piece that we're looking for, we're saying we want peace and we're talking, that is words coming out of our mouths directed at, say, other people, okay? But that peace we're looking for, that needs to be achieved within ourselves. That's the only person that we need to be concerned about. So we're looking at these other souls, these other entities, and you know, they're, if you will, controlling and dominating. Is that because we do not have the peace within ourselves? That's what we need to be concerned about ourselves. So if maybe possibly we do find that peace within ourselves as a unity, as one family, yes, or let's just say there's 7 billion people on this planet, and let's say there's 100 of those souls that we deem as problematic, cause the chaos. So 7 billion people unified, is that enough field strength to actually achieve the transmutation of that problematic soul?
I would hope so.
Well, we're going to find it out.
Hopefully.
There aren't very many nations supporting the US right now against Iran. And they're trying to build a coalition like they did with Iraq. I think this is a movement of other nations beginning to see what you've just been talking about, which is that minds are changing. Governments are shifting. The UK with Brexit, etc. Russia and China are rising in their power. Iran has new technology that the US wants, obviously. The US was given the USB key in 2012 with several other nations. Correct, Rick?
Yes, it was probably in around that time.
Were they able to turn the key? Did they have the ignition? Or not? If they didn't, is that why they're going after Iraq or Iran?
Well, that's what Mr. Keshe said a while ago.
Yeah. So the real issue isn't about that oil flowing through there, or might be part of it. It's maybe they're just going after the technology. They want to steal it because they can't make it work.
Well, you got to look at Iran is one of the most technologically advancing countries in the world right now. It's come up from number 100 or something in nanotechnology to number 5 or 6, I think, in the world right now.
Yeah.
And other technologies, they're becoming one of the best in their defensive armament technologies. They're one of the best in the world right now. highest altitude anti-aircraft guns and all that kind of regular, gun play type technology. So they're becoming more and more respected, and it's only because they've been limited by sanctions and monetarily and every which way that the US can possibly limit them. They've been limiting them. And if they weren't limited, they would be at the very top of the world in all of that right now. And it's because of the knowledge. They have the ability to work with knowledge. Whereas in the US, the idea of knowledge is almost frowned upon. If you look at the way the interaction of the government in the US with their Senate and so on, and the way the whole running of the government works, it's not often based on knowledge. It's based on emotional or political or almost anything other than the knowledge, it seems. And the same with the educational so-called systems. And people get out of university with very specialized knowledge on one particular thing, but they are essentially not very educated. So it's a big thing that the U.S. would want the technology of Iran, and that it's part of the, we can only imagine with the plasma type technology how far they've gone with that. We have hints of that with different defensive things that they've done, and their abilities to take over drones when necessary and all of that kind of thing is very advanced. Pardon me?
And back engineer those drones.
Yeah. Not only just
so they can definitely detect them and shoot them down. And they're flying them illegally over their territories and over those straits.
Yeah, and they not only detected the drone, but the other thing about it, there was a Air Force jet that was accompanying the drone that they could have shot down at the same time. And they instead said, we decided not to shoot down they named the exact model of the jet and so on, with I think it was 31 intelligence officers that were aboard the jet. They named how many people were on the jet, what kind of jet it was, where it was. They knew everything about it. So that must have probably freaked out the US a little bit. They were probably actually watching each person get on the jet, and they knew exactly who it was. So, I mean, they have technologies and abilities that they aren't necessarily bragging about in public, because that's part of the secret technologies that give them the advantage and so on.
Yeah.
But
Russia.
I mean, imagine in today's world where we have these, officials, the president of the United States as an example, and the people around him, they're like Bolton and so on, who are very aggressive in their language and whatnot, and in their interactions in the world. And then we have Iran, that's been thought of normally by US for some time as sort of a backward nation more than advanced. And yet this so-called backward nation is showing by demonstration to the US that, hey, don't mess with us. We got more going for us than you think. So be careful.
Even with the sanctions imposed, they have more.
Yes, and maybe even because of the sanctions, people are starting to have more compassion for Iran than they did before, and not people, but the governments of the world and so on, and understanding that this is a very strong nation that has, essentially worked defensively for most of its existence as far as its borders and so on go. But anyways, it's very interesting to see these interactions and in the context of these, essentially like a giant chess game. And perhaps, like, I'd like to bring in the idea that Estella brought up, and And also in your statement here, Mark, the end of the statement, be enjoyed as it is. And this idea of that this peace from the souls can, and the world that's created from that attitude, from that perspective, can be enjoyed. That's the essential beauty of it, and the enjoyment of the beauty of it, and all of that. Now, if we can get the world players to engage on that kind of level, then it becomes a different ball game. Let's say it's no longer, the game is not to dominate others. The game is to enjoy the game as much as possible and have the players on your team enjoy it, and to make it a mutually enjoyable circumstance. So I'm thinking, okay, well, a thought came up just earlier today when we were discussing that what if we made what we call war actually into a game? They already have what they call war games, right? And in war games, nobody gets killed. If they do, it's accidentally and through some dumb thing that happens. But generally speaking, they're firing live action arms and all kinds of stuff's going on, but nobody gets killed. And yet one side wins over the other. You could say could be done virtually or through their gaming applications, and whatever decisions that get made and so on are all done in a way that nobody gets hurt. And that's the way it's going more and more in our modern world. Is you look at the way the US has gone, they've had less and less number of troops killed and less and less actual troops engaged, but they're still doing the damage. They're using drones, they're doing it remotely with technology. And it used to be one side. If you had the drone, then you had the advantage. But now the other side has the drone. You look at Iraq, where they developed the drone technology. Now Iran has got drones in Iraq, and the US has drones in Iraq. And they're both controlling the airspace, and they're basically giving each other some space on that. And the US seems to be pulling out and so on at the same time. So we have this interaction going on. Well, what if it got limited to, it no longer became okay to actually kill someone with a drone or with any technology, but it was still okay to take out another drone with your drone, or to take out other technologies. It would be technology against technology, but without the humans element. In other words, it would be sort of a gentleman's game of war, rather than coming from sort of a brute mentality, or trying to take out the enemy in terms of killing.
Yes, but Rick, but we have to change the we're going to recreate this whole thing. If suddenly peace broke out in the world, where would all the jobs come from? The whole world is based upon, well, a lot of it is based upon a war economy.
Well, so this is
the jobs that need to be created will be in the new making of these new factories, and the products that will come from the plasma technology and other new technologies that evolve from it. Like
right. Yep. And there's plenty of jobs. I mean, if we're going to go to space, there's right away all of that military money can be put into cooperative space technology, and to try to avoid the idea of making space into the next battleground, which is what if they suddenly peace broke out and we went to space, and we had the same mentality as before, we in terms of the arms manufacturers and so on. If they have the same mentality, then they're just going to apply their arms technology to space and try to dominate space. And that's not going to happen because
the Space Force, the United States Space Force, is the notion that they can control not only the Earth and all of its military and be the biggest, baddest power, but also take over space and control it too.
Yeah, well, this is the same as the Catholic Church and so on as well. I mean, that's why they didn't want to acknowledge that there might be aliens because, well, where are all the priests and where's the hierarchy for the aliens? If they can't be sentient beings, they can't be intelligent if they don't have the Catholic Church hierarchy there. So
here's another interesting aspect of this. Jack Sarfati was a Princeton mathematician. He's in his late 70s. He's nearly 80 years old. But have you heard of the Tic Tac UFO? The USS Nimitz in 2014 encountered non-aggressive Tic Tac looking UFOs or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. And he believes that he has the equation that can allow the United States in particular to start building it. Russia's already on its way with it, according to Jack Sarfati. Other nations, Iran, and he's maybe conflating the issues with these other nations, since I've tried to make it clear to him that plasma is on the side of Iran and the work that they're doing. So they don't need to disassemble or create something else, since they already have what everyone else wants. And Iran's willing to give it to everyone if they would just accept it. Rather than going in and taking it from Iran, why don't they just accept the gift? Sarfati was on Coast to Coast last night, and he talked about how America better get busy, and in the next 5 years, we could have craft that can do what the USS Nimitz fighter jet pilots saw these other craft doing. He even claims that they might be from our future, that it's human beings from our future that are coming back through a time portal. And the reason that they're not aggressive is because they're trying to get us to what Sarfati thinks is occurring, is that they're trying to get us to figure out what it is that they're doing with their technology. But even if they understand how to make it go fast, like fold space and move it the speed of light, they're still talking about the weaponization and military hardware issues.
Well, that's the thing about it. That might be why a lot of the UFO technology was not brought out or developed, is around World War II, when it was being developed, they had trouble putting weapons on the craft because the force fields around the plasma type technology doesn't allow for being able to shoot weapons out of your own craft.
Yeah. So it's really crazy that we're discussing, let's build craft that can do what those Tic Tac UFOs can do, America, says Jack Sarfati. But does that allow you to turn it into a weapon as well? You don't know that much. You know enough to make it go fast, but how do you work the weapons? How do you control it? All of those things need to be figured out, not just
the thing is, they probably can figure ways to do all kinds of weapons on it, and that's why that technology has not been offered to the US, because that's what exactly they will do with it, as will many countries of the world.
Right.
And that's why it hasn't been, whenever someone comes up with that type of technology, it becomes a national security issue and it gets buried immediately. And
Right.
only those who know get to play with that and so on.
There could be a coalition of what I would call, and Mr. Keshe has called, the parity of powers, where the nations that have the peaceful technology and want to use it that way will form an alliance to justify defense from any offensive country or person or people or other cultures, maybe not even from our own planet, to defend through parity of power. They all have equal amount of power. If anyone comes up with something that's more advanced and tries to use it against the rest, they all come together to defend against it. So we go into a defensive mode and no more offensive mode, like you were talking about.
Right, yeah. Like the US has bragged about being able to see a missile launch anywhere on planet Earth as soon as it happens, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can instantly respond to that with another missile launch of their own to, you know, take out that country or whatever if they wish. Well, I'm thinking, okay, well, what great technology this is to be able to see a missile launch from anywhere on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine if you had that ability that, I mean, the first thing you have to do is detect. If you're going to protect against something like that, you would have to detect it first, of course. And then imagine having the protective technology that instantly gets activated, like through a network you were just talking about, Mark, a coalition of protectors, you could say, and defenders. And then the fields go out around that rocket and either disable it or send it back to its place of origin.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. Just send it exactly right down the same tube that launched it. Why not? And then, or, you know, in some way disable that situation. There's probably 100 to 1,000 different ways in the plasma technology that kind of thing can be done. So you know, perhaps in the near future, the technology that was used in an aggressive manner in order to, you know, detect the rocket launch so that we can launch a rocket against it. But if the technologies the plasma technologies are superior, then all of a sudden that attitude can't work, because if we launch a rocket against the other rocket, then the protective plasma technology people are going to come in and disable my rocket and turn it around and put it down into my missile tube again. And that happened the last 3 times. I don't think we're going to do that again. You know, we took out three cities last time. Maybe we shouldn't shoot rockets off anymore. We'll have to try some other nasty way. Maybe we shouldn't, because they figured that out too. Maybe we just stop our nasty ways and just enjoy the game instead of trying to create havoc. So perhaps we're getting close to that point.
The conversion of the weapons in war machine to new industries is going to happen. Mr. Keshe has made it really plain that it's a big problem, because how are we going to put everybody to work and doing what?
Well, there's so much to do, though, Mark. I mean, look at this, you know, all the damage that's already been done in the oceans, the plastics in the oceans. That could hire 1 billion people right there, just in trying to come up with technologies and ways and means and methods to start cleaning the damage that's already been done in the last century. And it's been extensive on the planet, and start coming up with solutions that don't mean that we have to, you know, rape and pillage every square inch of the planet in order to survive as humans.
Right.
There's plenty of room on this planet for the people that are expected to come here. And if we all are in a relative state of prosperity, then we don't want to have dozens and dozens of offspring and suddenly go into hundreds of billions on the planet and so on. If you look at all of the developed, so-called developed countries of the world, the ones that are more progressive economically, they all have a problem with their populations of not enough population growth. So that's why they have to bring in immigrants in order to have enough population to make enough taxes in order to supply everything that they need to supply.
Right.
So,
Mr. Keshe has made it pretty clear too that the world population where it's at right now is relatively small compared to the amount of people that it's going to require to
actually implement the space technology.
The space technology will create so many jobs, but it's a long road to get there. The conversion that has to occur is going to be.
I think it could happen very rapidly. I think we're pushing toward that in a very rapid phase here. There may be skirmishes or even a major event that takes place, and maybe that'll be what's necessary to wake up enough of humanity to a true peace. I don't know, but it's definitely working toward that, where the coming together of peaceful attitudes along and in enjoyment of being human and being on this planet and so on.
Yeah, and having a job that makes you feel good, like planting trees or, you know, fishing the plastic out of the water and the agriculture that could. Go ahead. Sorry.
What Rick you just said is like seeing the shiny side of the coin. For example, if you and I, we always argue, we never get that agreement on something, it becomes painful every time we communicate. But if we have a completely different approach, even though we kind of, you know, chit chat with some spices, it becomes enjoyful, you know, and we
exactly.
And we get.
Could you say that again? Chit chat with some spices. Is that the way you say?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what the world leaders need to be able to do, is chit chat with some spices, and you know, lay it out on the line and say, look, we know we have this technology, that technology, but we're still going to agree to get along enough that we're not killing each other and not totally harassing each other and so on.
It's almost like you enjoy the sense of humor that maybe you don't like it, but you start to understand it.
Yes, right. Yes, exactly. And maybe you can learn to like it. You start off not liking the other side. They're the enemy or whatever. And then you learn the enemy is, well, gee, they're actually just like me. They've got a wife and kids and a whole family, and they're really concerned about their family, and that's why they're doing all this. All of a sudden, you start to have compassion for the other side, and then you can see, well, maybe we can make this more into a game rather than truly believe that this is my thing in life, that I have to be in conflict and I have to conquer the other side.
This is another idea. The media is putting preconcept of like, oh, two people are talking and it's gonna be a war zone, because they are putting this idea in their head instead to everybody become observer without emotion, and they say, okay, these two people are communicating. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's go through the walk together and see what happens, instead to preconceive as like, oh, we're going to have a problem here. You're starting the problem because you're saying we're going to have a problem. You put in the rotten fungus in a new apple, and the apple didn't know that fungus exists. So this is very typical of where we live, you know. They preconceive ideas and you already go with fear or with some kind of, you know, something is gonna happen. Instead to trust that everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, when you have defenders like the parity of powers associated together to defend against any bad thing that comes up, then people feel more safe to watch the transition unfold.
Because today I'm putting my trust and the leaders' trust that they're gonna do the right thing for peace, instead to put my fear that something is gonna happen. And that's something very strong, and I know it works. When you put the trust that everything is gonna be fine, peace is on the air, you know?
Through the shared technology of the plasma technologies and its multiple applications, we haven't even begun to figure out what we can do with all of this. And it's going to take a long time for us to reach the point where that conversion occurs, where we switch over to peace. Then where are all these military going to go, like Mr. Keshe was saying? What kind of jobs are they going to do? Will they be converted into educators like they did in Iran? There's a lot of big questions about how it's all going to evolve. It will evolve, but it's going to take time. And we'll have to have people that are, I think, convinced that peace can occur and that we can get through that conversion. But you know, I just wanted to say I live in a little Navy town in Bremerton, and we have Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. The Nimitz visits us regularly for repair and etc. in our shipyard. They've seen these UFOs, these Tic Tacs that I was talking about earlier. Anyway, if peace was to ensue, our little town would go under. It's our only industry in Bremerton. It would become like a bed and breakfast, historical bed and breakfast town with very few jobs. And it would happen worldwide, I think, because of look at how many encampments, how many stations, how many places have been built. This whole area that I live in was built on a war economy during the Second World War. And it's still here with the industry I just mentioned, the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard.
Yes, Mark, but you are in one of the most picturesque, beautiful, mild environments, places of the entire planet that will be in a time of true peace. You will have people coming from all over the planet wanting to be there, wanting to participate, wanting to get involved and invest in the place and buy. And I don't know if we even have money by then, but to increase the prosperity of that area. You will see it happens to you look at a city that's maybe had an area of the city where there's a lot of conflicts, and maybe they've had a lot of murders, and it's a seedy area of town and so on. And then eventually something happens and that all changes. It all gets kind of cleaned up and investment comes in and the tourists come in and everybody wants to get along, and that becomes more important than the other stuff that was going on before. So I think that you'll find a natural transition that in a time of peace, like for example, maybe that'll become the headquarters for the cleanup of the Pacific,
Yeah, that'd be good.
you know, plastics patch or whatever, and all of it gets processed through your area. So it has to have a large Navy kind of shipyard area, and they'll be building new boats and you refitting all the old ones and so on. And it takes the Navy guys to do it because they're the ones that built it, so they're the ones that modify it, and you know, so on and so forth. I think that I mean, it's the same argument that's happening in the world of the oil and oil sands and what we call tar sands and so on, and all the employment there. As we move into a more plasmatic and electric type society, and in 5 years you won't have cars that are burning oil or burning fuel. They'll all be electric, and that's that. You won't be able to buy them because they'll be outlawed, and they're outlawed in many cities of the world. In between 10 and 20 years from now, you won't be able to drive a vehicle that runs on gasoline inside of these cities, most cities.
Yeah, there's another side of it too, is that on an exponential growth rate that we're seeing now, what used to take 100 years for this and then that to happen and another thing to happen and changes in industries and et cetera, 100 years of change now occurs in 10 years or less at an exponential rate.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So we'll see over 1,000 years of rate in 100 years.
Yes, and in those 100 years, we'll see 10,000 years worth of
and exponential growth grows exponentially, so it'll even be less years because of the exponential growth. So if we look at it that way, perhaps maybe we can see that what used to take 100 years now takes so much less time for change to occur. Even if you make a really bad decision, some government like the US, it could be changed really rapidly too, because the people are now waking up or have awakened, and they want that change and they don't want war anymore.
Well, that's right. And the rapid growth is actually where it's required more than anything, anywhere else, is in our own psychology, or in our own relationship of our soul to the physicality, and understanding who we really are as humans. That's where the exponential growth needs to occur more than anything anywhere else, because otherwise expanded technology and having more and more power in the hands of people is not such a good idea when that power can be used against others or to harm others. So more and more the ethics of the situation, the ethos, becomes more important than the actual physicality stuff that you're working with, or the technologies or the advancements and so on. For example, you get new electric cars that have literally 5 to 10 times the power of most cars that we drive nowadays. So you put your foot down and you're doing 100 kilometers in literally 2 seconds. And before it would take maybe 20 seconds in your old Volkswagen Beetle or something. In the old days, the new Volkswagens are a lot faster. But so it's a different world, and we have more and more power available to us as time goes on, so that in the old days you would have 1 horse, you would have 1 horsepower. If you had 100 horses, you were a king, because who could afford 100 horses? And nowadays, everyone's got 100 horses under their right foot if you drive a car, and chances are it's more like 2 or 3 or 400 horses. And you go to electric and you can have up to 1,000 horses, and next year it might be 2,000 or 3,000 or 10,000 or whatever, especially as we go to into flight orientation, which is
Right. And
occurring
that's
in the
what,
next couple
that's
of
what
years.
Jack Sarfati is talking about. If they could figure out how to create a vehicle that's like those Tic Tacs, and this is Mr. Keshe's and Iran and every other country that's been handed the USB stick are becoming more aware of, is that this change that will come will alter and disrupt everything that's been before it in a very rapid pace, but the transition will be a little rough, a little bit of a rough ride initially.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's all happening right now.
The decision still has to be made. You know,
without losing the concept, it's important. So when two magnets, they interact, they create a new force. Well, the same thing happened with two people trying to build the machine together. One thinks in one way and the other one thinks in a different way. But if they join together, they create a new way of building it. Same, we're talking about how this interaction is made. And we see that everybody's trying to do it in their own way, but they cannot work together.
Yeah,
that's
Mr.
the problem.
Really, Mr. Keshe has been very vocal about that whole subject. I agree with you.
I know, but I'm just trying to arrive to the wish. How this is a common denominator. Look at the kids go to school. They don't know how to socialize. People fight in the street because something stupid, because someone, they cross each other. They call the road rage. They don't know how to live
So for the kids in the school, you give them a project to work on, and then all of a sudden they're cooperating because they're having fun and they're enjoying themselves. They like working with each other.
And if you see boys, they don't communicate. They're not girls. They can tell their feelings openly. Boys don't. Boys, they open when they start to work on doing things together, a task, and they loose it up and they start to share their feelings by doing things. So what I'm trying to say,
Estella, so they're brothers. What do brothers do? They share. Brotherhood of man.
Yeah, but not everybody knows how to share.
Yeah, but they can learn.
Well,
I know, but
we've arrived at the solution for all the problems. I mean, we could all work on our emotions and relationships with each other, and that would involve all the people, both the boys and the girls and the men and the women.
Exactly.
So basically, if we start working on the emotional level, on the soul level, and call that a job, everyone has a job from 0 to 99 or whatever age we reach. I think,
the job of the future.
The job of the future is caring for each other and for all the other beings, and cleaning up the emotional mess that we've created. All the material things that we are doing are basically also beings in some respect, social structures. They are dinosaurs in some respect, but they can't cope with the level of increase in population. That's the main problem, that we are not able to create enough meaningful jobs.
That's fake. That's fake. That's not real. And the fields of knowing, connection to your soul, everything is possible.
No limitation.
Exactly. And I'm very strong about this. If anybody comes to me and tells me no, I say, move. You don't put me a no in my forehead.
That's why you're here, Stella.
Yeah, and this is like the climate and all this. We are the ones interacting with the fields of the planet, and we can change everything. But we are not thinking like we want to have a blue sky. We accept that there are clouds. Or we need to communicate with the trees. We need to communicate with everything, because the moment you say you give love, there is a reaction. Everybody wants that love, and they shine. Plants, they die when they don't receive love, but the moment they give it attention, that plant is coming back alive. It's like someone said about my rotten apples. Yeah, they are asking for, look at me, I'm dying, I'm rotten. Everybody needs that existence, a proof of existence. That's why people misbehave, because they wanna be look at it. They are important, and they don't know how to behave nice to be recognized as good. They misbehave bad to this getting the attention. It's all about the proving of the existence. I'm the observer. Look at me. I'm shining. You know. Same with the control and the power. They're trying to do the same thing. But why we cannot exist by collaborating and without being more important than the other one, you know? Just enjoying your part, I enjoying your partner or your friend. We have to go with I'm the best one, or I'm the, you know.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the latest issue of the Plasma Times, there's a nice chart about the carbon 12 and carbon 14 and the interaction of the souls of physicality and the soul, how they connect with each other. And I think when we are talking about someone missing energy and trying to interact on a horizontal level, it's this missing understanding of how we reach energy at the basic level, at the plasmatic level. So what I wanted to say with this is that if we take a look at how we were expelled from paradise, is when we took the first bite. And since we took the first bite, the first generation of those who took the bite are the kids like Cain and Abel, you know, fighting about who controls the land and indulging in murder and stuff like this. And since then, we've been continuing on that path because we don't know haven't been told up until now what the direct link to the universal energy is. And all the social structures that we are using are basically built on this basic principle of someone controlling the land and some others fighting for the control of that land, whatever resource we may call the land. And just look at this latest Plasma Times and try to analyze it, try to get the message of the Maghreb unit of the nano layers, and maybe then like this we can get around all these issues much faster.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Okay, anybody else like to say something here? See, Mark, your microphone's open. Did you want to carry on there?
Does anyone disagree with me that there should be some formation of existing nations that have been handed already the USB stick in 2012 or even thereafter, that we should come together and defend against powers that want to rule over us, and that peace has to ensue based on our ability to defend against it?
No, you don't need to do that.
Okay, why?
Because
I'm not for it all.
You're feeding the fire.
Well, no, if you don't defend, this is my argument, I guess. If you don't defend parity, if you don't defend that everyone has the same power, then some go without.
What about if you stand in your fields and your feels get stronger. I stand in my feel of peace, and love is stronger than anything. That's when you don't need to, you just stand. You just be the best of you.
Well, let's think of it as a utopian type of notion.
It's not utopian because when you work from
No,
the fields,
what I'm talking about is though, it's more or less utopian because we have a defense against attackers. Utopia can often lead to rule of law, where we're the law because we have the power, we have the technology, and
no, the powers in the fields. The powers in the fields. The powers in the love.
You don't. Good day. I'm down from Romania. You don't want to force one or two or three magnets for moving the other magnet. Be the magnet, and everybody else is repositioned regarding you.
Except for the ones that aren't, the ones that develop something beyond what's in the parity.
No, when I'm telling you, when you stand in the truth and in love and peace, the rotten apple can stand that force. It has to move away.
Yeah, good point. The magnets either attract or repel. And if you increase the field strength of one of those magnets, then the other magnets will respond. They don't have an emotional, or they don't have any ability to not respond. They just automatically reposition is the idea there. So if we increase our soul's field strength, you could say, or our peaceful field, the others will automatically reposition themselves, and the rotten apples will have a hard time in that field strength, and they'll be repositioned automatically.
Like
someone in a repelling mode.
Like if like every seeker, plasma seeker, imagine us standing in the CO2 field of peace and love, and just standing in that field to assist those that are lower fields, that they're unstable, creating problems.
Yeah, if you can get them all to do that.
Well, we can do it just at the soul level in 0 time.
That's what these wishes are supposed to do, and they're supposed to affect people.
At no time communication.
These wishes are communication through our souls to other souls to make that happen. But in the utopian society, where you go to Taco Bell because it's been chosen as the best restaurant in the world, but it only has 3 little pieces on your plate, and you want to eat a big burrito instead, but you can't because the utopian society says this is the better way to go.
No, I'm going to tell you what this change.
That you have to change, that you have to be completely different and stand in this CO2 field structure.
Utopia would mean is you have a concept, an idea, and it never manifests, stays in the virtual idea concept. But the difference in the plasma is like you work from the fields and you bring it and connect it and manifest into the matter state. That's different. And it's in your connection to your soul level that makes you bring the whole complete loop to bring into the matter state to manifest. And your trust and your good intention. So it's not utopia. It's your connection to your soul what makes you be real or not in your existence.
Well, that requires a lot of, we have almost 8 billion people on the planet. How are you going to make them?
Everybody's been living disconnected.
You don't make anybody do anything, Mark. That's the whole thing about it. Every person that is in...
Yeah, but not everyone does it all at once. It takes time.
But you got to take into account there's a major transformation going on the planet, on a planetary level. Everyone is becoming elevated, even the animals, even the bugs, everything is coming up. Look at the animal world just as an example, that we're seeing all kinds of incidences of intelligence in animals that we had no idea were intelligent before, and seeing all kinds of compassion and various very human attributes in the animal world. And we're seeing animals taking care of other animals, and all kinds of real examples of love going on.
Rick, if they took away the internet, what would we know then? What would we know then? And how would we react then?
Well, this is the thing, is everyone's reactions are changing. We're becoming more aware of our own presence in the world in general.
If the internet was to be shut down, the awareness would fade.
No, not at all.
Because
not at all. This is what I'm saying. It's not a technology thing. It's an inner technology thing. We're talking about inner transformation is occurring to everyone on the planet. If you're here at this time in this place, you're part of the program, whether you like it or not. It's a worldwide wave that's transforming everything. We're elevating the planet. We're elevating everything on it. Not we are, but not we. It is happening. It is occurring. It's not someone. Not someone.
What part of it?
Yeah, that's basically it. Is the the soul of the universe. It's part of the evolution. It's a natural evolution. It just happens to be accelerating at this point because that's the way the wave function goes.
And when peace occurs, that's when the acceleration really begins.
Well, the peace is occurring. The peace is occurring now. That's the thing. It's not when it occurs. It's already occurring. There already is people like ourselves on the planet that feel that peace in ourselves because we feel our souls. We are starting to acknowledge that we are not just a physicality. And we're starting to acknowledge that we have the potential to be an actual creator, a true creator of every aspect of our lives, and that we have that ability to participate on that level, and that everyone has the ability to do that if they so choose. And that's the difference, whether you want to choose or not. But that choice is becoming more harder to say no to because of this general awakening that is occurring with everyone and everything on this planet. And that means we naturally tend to look more inward and are noticing more things about ourselves in general. Humans are, and noticing about others and becoming more aware of the bigger pictures that are occurring. We take our attention off of maybe the family unit and look at the village unit, and then off the village unit and start looking at the national, and then beyond the national to the international. And then all of a sudden we're looking at, gee, I'm part of the whole planet. I'm part of the universe. I'm not just part of my little family unit here in lower whatever, in some small faraway country somewhere. Everyone in the world is becoming aware of the rest of the world and their part in it, and how important every little part becomes in that way. So I think that we're, that perhaps that world peace as such will still need to, as kind of break out in the future. But at the same time, it is happening now. The process is happening now, and it will have to continue to happen because there will always be pockets of resistance, let's say, and areas that'll be transformed and transmuted with the interactions of those that are already waking up and already becoming part of this army of peace, you might say.
Yeah, there's always an exploitation of weakness that's when someone, like you just look at the Democrats and Republicans in our country, if you talk about socialism or being a socialist, Republicans jump all over that. They're like, oh my God. So,
yes, but at the same time, they are becoming more socialist than the socialists were in a way.
yeah, and they don't want to admit that they give the
well, this is the
social
irony,
graces to the rich, you allow
of the
them
situation.
to tax breaks, huge tax breaks, and they're making more money than they ever have. But yet they'll use this in the next coming election to knock down the Democrats in order to win the election for our current president.
Well, who knows what'll happen and what's the inner game is really going on. It's when the soul works, then a lot of things.
Sides. People will take sides, and the side that wins is usually the one that appears to be stronger than the weaker. The stronger always gets to the weaker, according to Mr. Keshe.
Strength is being appraised differently than it used to be. That's the whole deal that's going on. The strength of the soul is not the same as the strength of the physicality. The strength of the soul works in very subtle ways and is not the brute force of the physicality that's been the predominant political theme in the last millennia, let's say. That is becoming obsolete now. That brute force dictator type mentality that's pretty much shown through the way the US works and lots of other countries of the world as far as that goes, in the way they interact with others in a kind of a brutal kind of way. But that's becoming passé now. It's no longer okay to have that. You can talk about it, but if you actually use it, then you're frowned upon by the rest of the players of the planet. They are not into that as much as they used to be, let's say. So when the US wants to go to war with Iran, they're looking around at their friends and they don't have all the friends around them that they're supposed to back them up. And they're going, well, gee, maybe I won't, maybe I better back away a little bit here. I don't have the backing that I had. And you'll find that that's happening. One big way is financially. There's too much money to be lost in wars, and they're starting to recognize that. There's money to be made, yes, but there's also, if you want to stay in touch with your population and so on, it's probably not such a good idea. They're going to have a backlash, and sure enough, peace will prevail once again, and you'll be in another predicament if you're into the war machine. I'm just saying there's big changes happening, and it's working on all levels, and it's hard for us to say whether, when we look at some of the skirmishes and small decisions being made, and even the interactions of Congress and everything else, how it'll play out in even a short period of time, because the changes are occurring very rapidly, and they're occurring on a very deep level, as opposed to just on a superficial level, little tiny things here and there. It's a deep level of change, so that the president of the United States is changing his relationship to his being right now. His relationship to his soul is I see, very rapidly changing, actually. I see a lot different attitudes and words coming out of President Trump's mouth compared to the way he was years ago. And it gives me a lot of hope for the future in that case. We don't have to change the politicians. We just have to allow them to see who they really are. And that's what's happening on the planet. We're getting into full transparency, and everyone gets to see who they are, and we get to see who they are. And if they're manifesting the physicality, we'll see that. If they're manifesting their soul, we'll see that. And everything in between, but at least it becomes obvious, transparent, and then we can deal with it, and rather than in the back alley somewhere where we don't get to see it and deal with it in the ways of the past.
Yeah, I'm 61 now, and I want to see this transition unfold in a rapid manner.
It already is. You're already part of it, Mark. You've been a big part of it in the last years.
Yeah, I
think
know.
of all the thousands of people who you've transformed their minds in a way, their focus of attention in their life, and their attitudes and everything else through the introduction of the plasma technologies, through your Golden Age of GANs site, and other, not just the plasma technologies, but some of the other things that you know in your life and that are part of the peaceful process and so on. I know you're a peaceful person, and that's part of your life. And that's influenced literally tens of thousands of people out there. Imagine, probably if you were to extrapolate that each of those have influenced perhaps thousands or tens of thousands. And so that has gone out to perhaps most of the world when you look at it.
Yeah.
That your wish has gone out to most of the world, which is more than most people can proclaim. And that's just on the physicality level. I mean, our wishes do go out to the whole world when we wish from a very deep place anyway. But
Facebook, who does a lot of censoring of my group, the Golden Age of GANs, put on my page this morning a note saying that over 400,000 people have liked some specific posts that I've made over the years. So 400,000, that's almost 500,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
But my page is still being, my group, Golden Age of GANs, is still being censored, and the numbers don't climb like they should be, because I see the number of people coming there to join the group are not being added to the number of members, even though they've been accepted as members.
Well, don't know the ins and outs of that, but the fact is that you still remain after all these years. And if they being whoever they are, wanted to really get rid of you, they would have gotten rid of you a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mark?
Yeah.
I can help you within that they can't be added because your maximum is 5,000. You can't overcross 5,000. So the ones which are not active, you have to remove them for the new ones to come in.
I see. Well, the number was almost 20,000 less than a year ago, and then they knocked out 1,000. Facebook did at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, there's not a 5,000 limit on your page, I don't think, Caroline. It's just your personal friends.
That's a personal page, yeah.
Yeah, personal page is different than a
group page.
Group page, yeah.
Okay, I see.
So now we're at 19,039 or 61 or something. But when I see every week 35 to 70 more people wanting to join, and I add them to the group, they're not added to the numbers on when I refresh my page. And
there might be those that are leaving the group at the same time, though. Eh?
Yeah, but I don't think it's in that many numbers. They come in. I try to welcome everybody now. I've been doing it for several months now, maybe over a year.
Yeah, I see that.
So that they feel like they've been recognized. But yeah, 400,000 people seeing posts that I've done makes you feel kind of good. But what I was saying before about if the internet ever went under, just like a peace ensued, these changes would be interesting. Let's use the word interesting, because what are we going to do? Mr. Keshe has made this pretty clear, that what are we going to do with all these people, or how are we going to put them to work? You mentioned a few things, you know, cleaning up the ocean and maybe planting trees and agriculture, and erasing the borders and letting everyone just kind of mingle and expand and grow with a new economic horizon in front of them. But the exponential aspect of this is going to kick in at some point, where we begin to see those borders opening up and peace breaking out everywhere, where military force has kept things. And those economies and those little strongholds where you live to make money, to pay bills, are going to fade. They're going to disappear. You won't have the military monster pushing everybody to go to work. I see those people on buses every morning, slaves going to work for the military to build their weapons of war here in my little town.
Yeah, but they'd be just as happy building weapons of peace. You know, a Gans gun rather than a Gatling gun is a
I
better
think they'd
deal
like
in
it better,
anybody's
yeah.
mind. Yeah.
They would
So it's
prefer that.
yeah, and they don't care what they do as long as they have enough to survive with. So, or they do care. They would care if they had the opportunity to think about it and ponder, gee, would I rather be making weapons of war or weapons of peace? Let me think about that for a while.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have weapons of peace. I mean, gee, it makes more sense. But maybe some would want to continue with weapons of war.
What
But in
support
any,
there?
pardon me?
What support would we put in?
Well, I was just going to say
else?
that
Because there is nothing else,
what
right?
we're seeing now internationally, and what we're seeing around in different parts, like as experiments, for example, in Canada that they did, is what's called a guaranteed annual income.
Yeah, basic income is
A basic income, so that people don't have to work if they don't really want to. And you introduce programs where people have meaningful work, where they do things that they like to do or they want to do, to follow their passion, to be able to get into programs where they're doing, helping others in the way that they really wanted to do, and so on and so forth. So if you had a guaranteed annual income, that you didn't have to worry about scraping together and doing, you know, 2 part-time or 3 part-time jobs in order to scrape enough together for your basic food and rent and so on, which is generally the case for people in the developed countries at this point in time. So-called, I call them so-called developed countries, because I don't think they're developed at all if 20 to 40% of their population is living in basic poverty. So in any case, a guaranteed annual income will enable those programs to start to take place, such as ocean cleanup or homes for the homeless, or whatever different ways that we can show our compassion for each other as humans. And this, to me, will be the key. And this is what, like Canada's been talking about, that has come up in the news recently. And they've had a few cities that they've had the program, and it's had generally a good success. People aren't just going lazy and staying at home and not working simply because they have an income. It's actually inspiring them to start their own businesses and to begin getting involved in the world, and to you know, think about other stuff other than their basic survival. And this is a good thing. And it doesn't cost that much when it comes right down to it, compared to the social programs we have now, which are very expensive. They've got government officials that are getting paid $200 a day to give out tiny little amounts to people a little bit at a time, and being really conservative about it and have all these rules and regulations, and you have to pay us and our lawyers and our government and everything else all along the way. And so it ends up costing thousands of dollars to give out hundreds of dollars. And that's just insane. It just makes the rich richer and the poor poorer.
Trillions of dollars are spent on taxpayer dollars here in America and other countries on war. And if peace broke out and they announced it that day that they announce it is when they start to switch that money over and convert it to peace.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's not going to be necessarily the day when peace breaks out, because there'll be certain countries and certain people that'll be still trying to prevail with creating disturbances and wars and stuff until we get it all settled out, and it may take some time. However, what we're seeing right now in that way that you're mentioning, and I was going to mention earlier, is the removal of the financing of the tools of war.
Yeah.
And that's happening now because various groups like the pension funds groups and ecological groups and the climate change groups and various other groups are binding together and forming as one unit and saying, we are the shareholders of this company, and we no longer think that the policies of this company to invest in arms is correct. So you get now the banks are being influenced. So there's a case where the banks would not finance one of the arms companies because they made, I think it was the AR-15 weapons, the standard military carbine, basically. And it's also the most popular weapon used for mass killings and that sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons they got a bad reputation, is because of the mass killings in the US in particular, created by these warlike weapons or war weapons. And so the banks have had pressure on them from the shareholders and whatnot, and they've, in some circumstances, are no longer willing to finance the weapons of war in some companies. So when this starts to become the thing, the latest rage, let's say, or the latest tradition, or the new habit of not financing the weapons of war, those companies will just evaporate. And yes, those people will be unemployed, but hey, so are the automotive workers in North America and so on and so forth. There's lots of unemployed people that are looking for new jobs, and there'll be, like we said before, tons of jobs in the new plasma technology. Imagine the transfer technology from Iran and China, Russia, and all mixing in with the US and Canada and other, Europe and South America and so on, taking the best of all of this and bringing it together and working together to create the newest, best fusion plasma reactors, or the newest and best transportation systems or space systems and so on, working with the benefit of all beings in mind, not just the benefit of my nation, or worse still, my state, or worse than that, my city, or worse than that, my community, or my culture, or my color of skin, or whatever. Because whenever we divide things down, then it becomes an us and them situation, and that's not making it in the modern way of peace. We have to include everyone. It has to be for the benefit of all beings. If it's not for the benefit of all beings, then why are we doing it?
Right.
Rick, I have a question, if it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
I have the question from one of knowledge seekers. No, I try to translate in the same time when you and Mark are speaking, and hopefully Estela and Senora Carolina intervene sometime because I have the time for breathing. But one knowledge seeker asking, okay, what do Rick or Mark if you now your family is attacked or is in danger? How you are reacting? This question is put in from one colleague. It's how you react when your family or you are in danger. Actually, everybody, how is react when you know your family is in danger? I don't know for what reason. I not see the other question, but how
you go
you
into a
are
protective, you go into a protection mode. You want to protect your family and yourself. So you do whatever it takes to protect your family and yourself and your friends, essentially.
Because, Mark, because it's interesting because everybody is my family, you know. One is taking my wife or my child, okay, but even enemy, I don't know, like say enemy. It's also is my, I don't know, my brother is my father is my other person is also equal with me because it's a living being in this planet. I don't know how you interpret this question in, I like it, how is thinking the other knowledge seekers, I don't know, regarding for this question, how you react when you are in danger.
Yeah. Well, there are forces, enforcement agencies that you can call for your protection, but you go into a protective or defensive mode to protect yourself. And even if it's a family member that you're protecting your family from, you have the option to call the police and have them put a restraining order on them or whatever it is. If that wasn't in place, then people would feel very vulnerable.
Yes, but again, there's other options. For example, one of the first things that occurs and that would be advisable would be to attempt to understand what this force is that's threatening you and so on. Why is it happening? What's going on here? What's really occurring? And try to get at the root causes and the root problem of that and find a solution that works on a different level than bringing in the authorities right off the bat. So in other words, if you're threatened by someone's banging at your door and they're, you know, demanding that you hand over all your money or something like that, is just an example. Well, you could naturally reach out to 911 and call the police in and have them deal with the situation. Or you might find out that it's just someone that's drunk and they need enough money for a beer, and that would be enough to make them happy. Yeah, it turns out they have the wrong address anyway. It's just their friend and they're playing a joke, you know, except they were drunk and got the wrong place. Or, you know, maybe they need $5 and they'll go away and forget that they even were there because they were so drunk anyway. You know, there's thousands of different ways to defuse a situation like that, other than just automatically bringing in the authorities, which is what we tend to do in a controlled society. When now we're at the point where if someone doesn't like the color of someone, they call in the authorities. And that's been actually the case in a few examples of people in their own apartment where they've had the cops called on them in their own apartment just because they happen to be the wrong color and someone saw them go into the apartment or something. And it's becoming a bit silly that way, or people calling 911 in order to find out what time it is and things like that. It's been getting kind of extreme. Anyway, I don't know if we need to get into that so much right now. And we are coming up on our 3-hour mark here.
Okay, thank you very much, Rick and Mark. I'm not saying sorry, because it's my my pleasure for helping the others, and I don't want to turning the course of wishes in. But it's my feeling for intervene, for saying this question for this my colleague, because it's right. And thank you very much for asking in such a beautiful way this answer.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Can I, hello, can I have a wish?
You want to put down a wish, Marinez?
Yes.
All right. How does it go?
I wish that no disaster happens to...
Wait a minute. You're asking for something to not happen?
Yes, because that worries me. I hope that...
Okay, we don't usually make wishes for things to not happen. We don't usually make wishes for things to not happen, but I'll put it down the way you want it here. You wish that, go ahead again.
No disaster, natural or war-made, happen to America. And one day, the children would go back to the history book and they say, we did the right choice at the right time. We take out of this materialism and went to the plasma world.
Wait a minute, I'm losing you there. One day the children go back to the history book and
proudly announce their parents courageously made the right choice at the right moment, and entered the
wait a minute, right choice at
the right moment.
The right moment
to enter the prosperous time of immateriality.
Wait a minute, at the right moment, made the right choice at the right moment, and go ahead.
Enter the prosperity of the immateriality, the plasma world, the prosperity of the plasma world.
To enter the prosperity of the plasma world? Is that what you said?
And equality for all. Prosperity and equality of plasma world. Equality of...
Sorry, there's interference there. Mark, I need to mute your microphone. Thank you. And could you go ahead there, Mariners, again, to enter the prosperity of the plasma world and equality for all? Sorry, Marinez, are you still there? You got muted. There you go. Say that again.
The prosperity and equality of the world of plasma, the immaterial world of plasma.
To enter the prosperity and equality of the
immaterial world of plasma
Immaterial world of plasma.
and peace.
In the matter of plasma or immaterial? Why?
Immaterial, because I just heard everything is in material words, like the guns, the police, they come, they go, we attack, we send. It's all material. It all needs budget. It all needs somebody to tell us something to do. But when we go to the immaterial world of, I decide, things happen, things are so prosperous if they learn that. Peace is so much better for our children, because with war, people absolutely get poorer. I've never seen any war in Europe, everywhere. War makes people poorer. They have to wait in line for the first basic food. And there are very few who profit from that. So why getting poorer? If the policeman doesn't have his pay, how could he go and protect people? It's impossible. How could they pay all the war? There is no more money. There is already empty Federal Reserve. Everybody knows. With what they want to attack a powerful country after 40 years, their sense of honor, their sense of pride, proud of their history, peaceful nation, powerful because of these bombs, attacking this country, it's impossible. How could they even, they destroy the country? These people don't care. Their mentality is that, so what? I steal after my body is gone. So how could anybody fight with the mentality that my body doesn't matter comparing to my integrity? It's impossible. They have stayed 40 years in front of the whole world, the whole media, 8 years of war with nothing in front of the whole system of everything. And they have become more and more strong. They have integrity and honor, which is more important than their body. So how could anybody attack these people? I don't care about their technology, which gets down the drone, American drone. With what technology do you want to attack these people? But you can be sure they never attack anybody. It's disgusting for them to attack the others. They have sense of pride and history. History, 400 years, 4,000, 3,000 years ago, they had the administration with 4 international languages. So how could these people with this strong sense of integrity, and they're not afraid of that, anybody can do anything against it, and their allies and their friends of religion and those who believe in Iran as a leader of ideology, how could they take care of their allies? It's impossible. How could they do about all these Iranians, which make a lot of money, which pay taxes in America? How could they do with them? They all have the strong sense of relation to our motherland. So it's just the idea comes from somebody who has used cocoa or something, but it's just not imaginable in any way. And the poor Americans get poorer. They are the ones who have to pay the war.
It's breaking up connection, Marina.
Sorry, what's that, Dan?
It's breaking up the connection of Mariana's.
So the right moment for the right decision of friendship. Iran is a rich country. They love Americans. They have a lot of relation, and they all learn English. And there are a lot of contracts in friendship. And I think anybody can prosper. There's place for everybody.
Thank you, Mehran.
Thank you,
But
Mehran.
the wish is gonna have to be adjusted, darling, because you're writing exactly down what you don't wish. What you don't want, you're writing it down.
And what we don't want, we usually get. This is the way the world works.
Well, I wish the safety of everybody, and no war, and peace, Peace, the right moment, the right choice in front of the history.
So, Mernas, how are we going to adjust your wish, darling?
Whatever you want, just the peace for everybody, choosing the right, the good choice in the right moment. And there is place for everybody in the immaterial world of plasma.
Well, how about we take out the no natural disaster thing and no war.
Okay.
And I wish that one day the children go back to the history book and proudly announce their parents courageously made the right choice at the right moment to enter the prosperity and equality of the immaterial world of plasma and peace.
Ah, that's good.
The history books are not correct, Merna.
I know. Up to now.
So you don't want them to go back to the history books, do you?
How about rewrite the history book? How about the children rewrite the history book?
When it's peace, they are mature enough, I think, with peace. We are all starting to be more mature. We all know internet and wars.
Okay, and we had another wish from Estella who wanted to put that in.
You put one day, it never happened. I wish the children rewrite the history books correctly. Even that the children should, that puts a question mark. I wish the children rewrite the history books correctly and proudly announcing to their parents I don't understand. Why do they have to announce
In
to
fact, I wanted to say that the parents have chosen the right. Proudly, the parents are proud to have chosen the right choice at the right moment. That their parents chose the right choice, the choice of peace at the right moment.
And the children were proud to announce that in the history books, basically. Mm-hmm.
Children is proud or parents is proud for choice?
Children are proud that their parents chose the right choice for them because they leave it for the children.
Thank you, Maria Inez.
Thank you.
What do you think, Carolina? Can we leave that as is for now?
Yes, it's too complicated to reset it.
Okay, it goes, I wish that the children rewrite the history books correctly and proudly announce that their parents courageously made the right choice at the right moment to enter the prosperity and equality of the immaterial world of plasma and peace. Okay, and as mentioning that Estella put a wish down in the chat here, and I think she wanted that included. And it goes like this. My wish is being open to the present, trusting the journey to planetary peace is the human self-discovery of values for collaboration for the well-being of humanity and unlimited outcome.
Needs work, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's just a little bit clunky maybe in spots, but it's good.
It's not bad, but it can be placed more powerful. It's not confirming, because if they still have to discover, means that it's not present. And for collaboration, it's not confirmed that they are collaborating in the well-being of humanity. There's a lot of wordplay with wish. The longer you make it, the more you start stumbling upon words which are undoing what your wish is actually in the first place.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we do as humans. We put our own foot in our mouth sometimes by talking too much.
You make it so beautiful, but the more words you're adding, the more you're demolishing the wish. Which is very funny, because that's, if you have observed the whole afternoon session, just go back and listen to it. Each word confirms what you don't want to exist. And this is what we are doing every day. And this is something people have not understood yet. Each word is, as Mr. Keshe explained, if you understand through his teaching, it's your physicality rubbing with your soul, which creates the noise. The noise is the matter state of the communication between the two. So you manifest through your words, and because of that manifestation, you create the reality of it. And that's why so many times, all over the period of time, we have always tried. That's the point of the wish. Don't put anything in your creation what you don't want to be in there. I used a very simple explanation last Wednesday. I said, if you want to cook a pot of soup, yeah, for the whole family or just for yourself, you use oil, butter, or whatever you use onions, carrots, leek, celery, a piece of meat, some cubes of bouillon, pepper, salt, parsley, herbs, for that to be a very gorgeous tasting soup. Maybe some patatas, some tomatoes, who knows, to make your taste of that nice pot of soup. Now, I ask you one simple question. That soup will taste delicious, yeah? Now, if I ask you to put your toilet in it, will you still eat your soup? I don't think so. So if you want to create a different world, It's not by keep on reinstating what is so bad, because you just keep it on going. You should turn the table to create the opportunity of the change in the positive way. Because every repetitive word of what is wrong, you just keep it in the soup. And at the end, you don't want to taste the soup anymore because it's going to taste horrible. So choose your words as you're going to create your soup or your dish or your cake. That is how you're going to create your life. With joy, with beauty, with pleasure, with friendship, and try to erase all the diverting, applying, directional, opinion-wise, judgmental. It is you who keeps it in place. Just remember the soup. I want a delicious soup. What will I add as an ingredient in my soup for the soup to be tasting nice? These are the same ingredients you'll use to create your life. Once you understand, do I really want to have that nasty taste? Then don't put the nasty taste in it. It's the same in the wish. Weigh your thoughts and your words, and it takes time. Believe me, it takes a lot of exercise to put those out of the equation, because you're so habitual using it that you don't even know. That's why Mr. Keshe said we have gone so obedient, we have gone so low in accepting the lowest of the lowest, that for us everything has become normal. Where are our standards of high? Not that I pretend to be or what, I'm just trying to give people the direction where you can start cleaning it up. Our words are valuable because they are the direction of what we are creating in matter, what we're keeping in matter. So I want a lovely, nice soup. Then keep the soup the way you want it to taste. Then create your life the way you want life to taste. With all the experience we have gone through, with what all we have experienced, what all we have seen, what we have learned in the last 5 years, I think it's time to create a nice creation with priority, putting all the beauties in place instead of all what we do not no longer want. Because the longer we are working on what we don't want, that's how you keep them in the soup. I'm not going to put a rotten onion in it, or a gone off leek, or a gone off parsley, or something with fungus in it, do I? No. So your choice of your wish should be that clean and neat. What exactly do I want in it, and what will I make sure is not in it? But that becomes also the part of your creation of your life.
The thing is, some people, I haven't seen all Iranians, there are others also. Most of them have become people who pray daily with intelligence, and they believe they are there. God is taking care of them. They are optimists about God take care of them. And this sense of praying, for me, is what makes them have protection. And they believe in that. And not many people maybe know this because they don't care to go and see what's the ingredient of these people. And this ingredient of praying and trusting that God is behind them gives them power to resist.
But God is your soul. He is the one who's protecting you. It's you yourself who has all the tools to stand. If you listen to the last soul teaching on Monday evening, sorry. If you listen to the parts which we are replaying from Mr. Keshe's soul teaching, it is explained. Are we going into more depth about that? When you listen to that part of the teaching, he says, you have everything. It's you who creates, because if you're part of the creator, how can you not be complete? You create that own condition, nobody else. You're supported within the totality, but it is your soul which is carrying you.
I mean, they think the way they have been on the feet for 40 years, for them is a sign that God is with them. They are in the right way and God is with them. I don't talk about the infiltrations inside, whatever, but the mass, the lower class, they have this attitude. So what? Whatever happens, if I go with it.
But why do we even use the word lower class? There is no lower class.
I wanted to say middle class, but middle class seems like they are jealous and all that. But people who are not materialist, that's how I wanted to say. People who say, I want to bring home the correct money. They say halal. They have halal and not halal money. These people, they are proud to say, my children were fed with the halal money, legitimate, with, like halal money. These people are having these ideas. Like our grandparents had these ideas also, because not any money for them is good to bring home. You know what I mean? Money, guns, killing, stealing. These people. And these people don't have two cars. They don't usually have their own house or a small house. So, not very materialistic, but more quality of life and the day after. Another life after life, which they state to be correct because of that other life which is waiting for them. Honest because of that, they have this attitude of not very materialistic, but more into humanity, generosity, and things like that.
But that is based on the Zoroastrians. That's the teaching of the Zoroastrians.
Zoroastrians, yeah, of course. And also the martyrs, like the Shiites have the the child of the son of the girl, daughter of prophet, which were martyrs by the system, by the Khalifa, by the crown of Islam, and they follow this. They are sweavers of this way, that this guy was killed and family babies because they were on truth and they couldn't say no to the Khalifa, which was not righteous. So they have it strongly inside them. They have ceremonies of that. And this ideology of martyrs, which are respected because they didn't say no to a tyrann, to a not right ruler of it. It was so to stand up for justice is their motive, their this culture of martyrs of Hussein, Imam Hussein. So they respect it very much. And I think people don't understand that on culture of Iran, because they see people who are outside modern, I mean, they are adapted to each country they go. But the real attitude of the mass in Iran, this loyalty to the martyr of Imam Hussein and his babies, and like Jesus, something like that. He knew he would be killed, but he couldn't accept the injustice. That's why they think that it gives them a sense of honor to stand against the unjust and defend the weak.
Thank you, Mehnas.
Okay, we're coming up. Sorry, go ahead.
I used to have an anecdote which actually happened quite a few years ago with young Israelis. And it was very funny because they used to come from Israel to earn some pocket money by selling jewelry, silver, clothing for youngsters. What we used to call the hippie way. They used to come with sleeping bags and some tents, and my sister bumped into a bunch of this, and she was asked, my sister, she invited them home so that they could take showers, they could have a proper meal, because there were always people on guard, and it was usually for a week for the Hansefeesten, which happens the first week of July. It's like a big fair. The whole city of Ghent is taken in by these kind of different, how do you call it, artisanal markets. So there were about 6 or 7 of them, girls and boys mixed, all coming to take share. They used to put the money together to buy the goods and then to come out and then to make profit on it. And that year it was a very, very nasty year. The weather was very bad. It was a lot of rain and storming. So out of concerning that they couldn't even get dry, my sister brought them home. And out of nowhere, suddenly, because I know that they all are obligated to be in the army till a certain age, and these were all youngsters. The discussion came about on the table, and about arms and war, and there was a hot discussion start going loose. And that time, we are from a Christian background, doesn't make no pro or contra, but I just turned around and it just flipped out of my mouth, and I said, it was something about defending, being in the army and carrying arms and being trained to shoot, to kill. I said, but the religion part came on top of it. And I said, listen, I said, each religion carries the same commandments of Christ. Each religion. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt this, thou shalt that, the 10 commandments which we all know. I said, even if you're a soldier, you still can obey by those 10 commandments. And he just looked at me. I said, I think the discussion will end here in a peaceful way, because if each one of us is trying to oblige by one of these commands, or even all 10 of them, I said, we will all go for a very long way in a very peaceful manner. So whatever is coming out in a different way from the religions, that is exactly what Mr. Keshe came to fulfill the commandments, to have the totality of it. That was the diversion to have power and do all sorts of things. That's where we are stranded today. We have the completion of the commandments. And I think each one of us, if we can even obtain each one of those commandments and take them into position into our lives towards our family or friends or neighbors or society, whatever you want, I think overnight, worldwide, we will have peace. So which ones of the commandments have we not understood? The one that we see the pictures of the priest baptizing or blessing the soldiers before they go shooting people? These are the standards which we have accepted. And that is where the problem sits. And that is what Mr. Keshe is explaining. We have lowered our acceptance for what? Fear. We have given up our power not to stand for these things. Because if we exercise or try to exercise all of them, I think we will have a pretty peaceful life. Not to want to possess what belongs to another and all sorts of things. But in this case, what we've been discussing the whole afternoon is, I think the first rule should come into place. Thou shalt not kill. And then we are only talking about taking a human life. So if we place, and maybe it might be an exercise for next time, if we start working in understanding globally how we can, through our wishes, make the commandments to work in our benefit of understanding, I think we will create peace. Because belief system is belief system, but understanding what it is exactly it is, that will bring the change. How can they proclaim themselves to be a Catholic country if they are inciting war? How far is that from the reality, and how can that exist? And we can look it up for in any different country. The laws, the 10 commandments that I know of, they are applicable everywhere. They've been taught everywhere. They've been educated everywhere. How come nobody is or hardly is following them? Is it because they've been misunderstood? So maybe next week we can open them up in our wishes and create from each one to call them up that they can be carried out. Would that be a nice idea for next week, Rick?
Sure, that sounds good, Carolina.
Shall we call it a day for today?
Certainly, yes. It's been very interesting. Lots of good points being brought up, and thanks to everyone for their participation today. There was lots of interaction. That was good to see.
It was a beautiful afternoon because people have to express where they have their feelings bothering them and their anxiety and how they would like to see the change. And if we don't bring them on the table, then we don't know what to work with.
That's right.
I thank you, my team. I thank you all knowledge seekers. It was a pleasant to be here. And tomorrow morning, it is Rick's presentation as usual. And then in the afternoon, we go to the private teaching. And then we have Mr. Keshe on Thursday. I think it's going to be very interesting on Thursday. I thank you all.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Carolina, for your guidance here once again today. And thanks to everybody for participating in today's 82nd One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. And we are present. Okay, I think that's it for now. And we'll have Flint take us out on a final thing here. Bye for now.
Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate.
Plasma products found at keshefoundation.org/store. Soothing, reusable plasma eye and migraine mask. Eliminate eye fatigue and relieve stress in eye area. European certified medical device. Massaging plasma insoles. Bring comfort back to your feet and energize your legs. European CE certified medical device. Antiseptic plasma liquid hand soap. Promotes well-being and relaxation with protective plasma formula. CE certified. One Soul Plasma T-shirt. GAN's formula within the symbols and stripes brings mind, soul, and body into balance. European certified. Pain Relief Pen. Emits a concentrated plasma field at point of pain, efficient up to 3 centimeters below the skin. CE certified. The Magrav's Energizer and Alkalizer raises pH and energizes water through magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Pain Relief Pad, a result of years of research in nanoplasma technology with magnetic and gravitational fields. CE certified medical device. Visit the online store at keshefoundation.org/store or find a distributor near you. Tax and shipping not included.